Hey everyone, I am back with another video, and in this video we are going to be experimenting with Holbein Acryla Gouache. I'm sorry if you can hear my fan. It is really warm here, so that's not changing right now. I went ahead and went to my, I think it's a chain, but it's one of the art stores closest to me called Plaza Art Materials, or Plaza Art something, I forget, and I picked up a few items. So I thought while I was sitting here waiting to go back to my part-time job, I would go ahead and do a quick haul. Seems really random and weird, but let's do a car haul. Why not? I realize how silly this kind of is because you can see my steering wheel right here, but I didn't really want to do this out while I was painting because there are a ton of people outside. Why? I don't know. It is so ridiculously hot. I got two different sketchbooks from Handbook Paper Co. Well, one's from Paper Co., one's from Journal Co. It is a watercolor sketchbook. I rarely see watercolor sketchbooks that's not in landscape mode, for lack of a better term. So I am really excited I found this. This is their sketchbook edition as well. It has quite a few pages. It has 128 acid-free pages. I will actually insert better clips of everything I got because it's a little ridiculous to ask you to be satisfied with my car haul. I had to get another Moleskine sketchbook. I have a problem. I really have a problem, and I recognize that within myself. I love the Moleskine art collection sketchbooks. I don't know why, because it's not like the paper is that sturdy for watercolor or ink or anything. It's not like that great, but it still serves its purpose for me, and it's what I've been using for most of my sketchbooks. And I'm a very loyal person. Once I get hooked on one thing, I'm pretty all out. So picked up another one of those because I had used my last one for my last sketchbook. I got a whole bunch of acryla gouache. Oh, I picked out one of my favorites. This is ash green, and I had picked up a few to paint my ornaments. So I have plans for a lot of these colors because I would be kind of mass producing some things for the Comic-Con in Baltimore, which is why I bought them as convenience colors. I know obviously I can mix a lot of the shades that I got, but because I was just like, if I'm gonna be making 10 to 20 of the same thing and need the same paint for it, and that's just one style, then I'm gonna have to go and just get the colors. Stay tuned for those little pieces that will be coming up later. Comic-Con isn't until October, so I don't know when I'm gonna start all that. I'm actually really nervous too. And then I picked up a Princeton Select Chisel Blender brush because I only have in my travel kit right now, I only have the Aquash Pentel water brushes. And for gouache, I would like not as much water. I would like to lay them down like acrylics. So here we go. I'm actually going to go out to a bench. I don't know why I'm pointing because you can't see, but to a bench over there and try to find a table space for me to experiment. So far, first impression, I like the colors. I really like how quick it dries. I like how it lays on top of each other. I used it more like acrylic than anything, but what can you do with limited time? So far, I really like the gouache, the acryla. I really like it. I like the color scheme as well so far. So we will see as I continue on this. But now I have to go back to work. So I'm not the best with descriptions, as you may have noticed in my videos. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to read directly from a couple of sites that I had Googled. And it explains Acryla Designer Gouache a lot better than how I could. This description is from the Blick Art Materials website. Its Acryla Designer Gouache is a fast-drying, opaque, acrylic-based watercolor paint. It's water-soluble while wet and water-resistant, matte, and opaque, even over dark surfaces. Acryla gouache is great for grounds and layering. It is compatible with all water-soluble media and possesses excellent light resistance. Now, I tried to do a very good job of having a cutaway shot of the tube of paint before I did the swatch, but for those of you who would rather hear me say them, I bought ultramarine blue, gold, carmine, ash green, ash blue, ash rose, ash yellow, sap green, lemon yellow, titanium white, and jet black. All of the tubes that I purchased are the 20 milliliter or 0.68 fluid ounce size, except for the titanium white, which is the 40 milliliter, 1.35 fluid ounces. I knew that I would be using titanium white a lot more than the other colors in general, just because I knew I was going to really need to lighten a lot of the different colors I got. And so that's why I bought a bigger size of that. These are the swatches in no particular order. Obviously, I don't know why I didn't do it in an order, but oh well, here we go. I'm going to now create something for us to kind of test out these. I think what I'm going to do actually is I'm going to create something pretty simple, and we'll just kind of see how it works. I have kind of noticed that I like using these more as acrylics than anything where I'm almost like mixing on the paper, and this is kind of how I like to use acrylics as well. I'm going to also, you know what, I should have gotten a few more brushes. I've been using the Princeton Select chisel brush that was in my haul as well, and so it's great, but I need a bigger brush. I have used this before, as you can tell. And I have my cup of water. I also have my rag. So let's get this refocused back onto the paper, and we will, oh, for the love of Pete, there we go. And we will begin. I am going to experiment with it with a little bit of water as well. Okay, I shouldn't have laid the paint down quite so early in the process, because now it's kind of clumping up. And that's my fault, that's not the paint. Okay, and now I'm going to try it with a little bit of water. I don't want too much because this paper is more like a mixed media paper, and I would rather not like ruin it, but I do want to see how this works. It does spread a lot more smoothly with a little bit of water, and all I'm doing is here's my water glass, and all I'm doing is I'm like barely putting the bristles in. So that's pretty much it. Okay, now, well, the yellow definitely got overpowered by the red. I still want it to be somewhat wet though down at the bottom, so I'm gonna put quite a bit more. Okay, so it's very interesting to me because, oh gosh, I haven't used acrylic in so long, and as you can tell, I've made an oopsies on my on my sketchbook. But that's what sketchbooks are for. They're for experimenting. And so I cleaned off most of the paint on my brush. I'm gonna dip it into a little bit of the water and then kind of bring down that yellow part, the more pure yellow part down here for a little bit more of a gradient, sunset-y style look. Like back in my acrylic phase, sunsets were my jam because they were super easy to do and they're beautiful. Who doesn't love a sunset? So that's all I did. Just the carmine up here, lemon yellow down here, mixed in the middle for that orange. Okay, I'm gonna let this dry and it only takes like a few minutes, but I'm gonna grab some lunch. I'm gonna let this dry and I'll be back in a second. I think there's like a water splatter here. Let's just move past that. I will most likely cover that up. I'm just kind of winging it here at this point, you know, because that's like the fun part of these experimentation paintings, is just kind of like seeing where the lines and stuff take you. I do really like how these spread. They're very smooth. And they layer actually very well on top of each other. I think this is more for just standard gouache, not the acryla. That typically if you put too much, they start to crack your page, but I'm not finding that. I put a very, very thick layer with that red, if you remember earlier, and it's still very smooth. It's not cracking at all. This is the watered down layer. And sometimes I feel like we get a better sense of it, watered down versions, like once they're completely dry. I might do a little bit more water. And all I did was, I probably should have put shown my palette over here. That probably would have made a little bit more sense. My water is up here. Right here, and then the paint was here. This is what I mixed, and then I've just been putting my paintbrush into the water and then adding it. And I'm really only going to do these types of watered down textures like towards the edges instead of in the middle. A little bit more like bushes. So let's go for it. I like these because they're not picking up the pigment that I laid down beforehand. Obviously with watercolor, most watercolors, unless it's staining, would pick that up. Even some gouaches, it would reactivate the gouache paint and pick that up. But because these are more like acrylic, they don't do that. So I'm really liking that. If I wanted to, I could come in with some lighter blues and add like highlights, but I just kind of want to keep this like this for right now. You can see, especially here, the difference between the blue on the yellow compared to the blue on the white. And it creates almost like a glazing with watercolor, if you will, where when you lay certain colors on top of others, it kind of creates that color without having to mix it. I'm going to do more of a music overlay with this section because we've kind of done the demo, but now I just want to do more stuff with like the different colors. You can see me, hi. Let's do 20 minutes. And my goal is to fill up this page for 20 minutes. So let's go ahead and start that now. Thinking about colors, I keep gravitating towards these two, but let's think a little bit outside. I'm gonna lay down a pretty nice blob of the titanium white. Oops. Okay, this is kind of what my palette looks like. That's probably the easiest way to show you. All right, we finished. The main thing I really wanted to try to challenge myself on was to use all 4 of those colors plus the white. Some things worked and some things didn't. Another thing that I really wanted was I wanted to use the green, pink, and blue as background colors to see how the other colors would lay on top of it as well. Using the gold was actually one of the most challenging parts that I had, and I really wanted to experiment to see how transparent it was, if I could build it up for it to be more vibrant, if it was more metallic, or like what exactly was going on, and that was my main goal. So I did this kind of hydrangea-ish flower. We'll just say it's like an organic abstract piece. I wanted to try to kind of recreate more of a dusty beach scene, and then I used the gold as the sand. I don't really think this translated as well, but I kind of like how it looks a little bit more translucent here, while in the horizon, even though it's not perfectly straight of a horizon line, it does get a little bit thicker. This blue started to get really watered down, and obviously there's not a lot of texture or detail in the palm tree, even though it should probably be a little bit closer to you from the water. So that kind of gets a little muddled and doesn't translate very well. But again, this is more just using the colors to see how they looked. And I wanted to see how transparent I could get the white as well, and like how it would build up. I think this one turned out to be almost one of my favorites from the 3 pieces. A lot of times with watercolor, I try to get like this gradient of distance, and for some reason I'm really bad at it with watercolor. I should probably practice more glazing techniques like this, because this was a lot of fun. And kind of still going off, kind of going off the organic shapes, I really wanted to experiment more with like cloud covers and all that. Like, these are really great at building texture. I really love, this is where the acrylic part comes in, where it's really great to get like those textures. I kind of wanted to play with like the gold part as if it were like speckles of marigold, and then I tried to dull it down just a little bit because this is so muted back here, and it didn't really do it that well. So if you're going to use this gold, proceed with caution if you're going to try to mute it down. I use this saturated and then applied water, so maybe if I were to have washed it or put water in it and made it more of a wash, it would have come across more muted like the green, but you know, oh well. And there you have it. That was my fun with Holbein Acryla. All right guys, that's it. I hope you had a really good time kind of going through this with me and experimenting. It's something that I really feel like I want to incorporate more on my channel, is more experimentation and having fun with products and getting out of my headspace of everything having to be perfect. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed the video. Please subscribe if you want to. Leave any questions or comments down below, and I hope to see you soon. Bye.